Hey everybody, and welcome back to FSi DFS. I am McKinley412. I'm one of the MLB coaches here alongside Mega Ruler. Today we're going to be breaking down this 4-game early slate on DraftKings. No weather concerns that we have to be paying attention to, which is phenomenal. Just because it is a smaller slate, we can dive a little bit deeper into the game, some individual plays, and then we'll kind of talk about, how lineup construction is going to be looking like, and then we'll kind of go through the sheet as we do it as well. So we will have another video out for the main slate later on in the night, so please go check that one out as well after this. If you need any help, even just like a first look, we'll break it all down for you. So, but for now, nice 4-game slate. Let's just dive right into it. You can clearly see Verlander up at the top, that 10.7 price tag. That is one of the highest that we have seen all season. I think 10.8 might be the highest that we've seen. So it's up there. And he's facing a Mets team that has the third lowest strikeout rate in all of the major leagues against right-handed pitching. So that is concerning. And Verlander's strikeout rate lately has been down in general. He only struck out 3 against the White Sox and 3 against the Yankees, 5 against Miami, who strikes out against everybody. So because of the tough matchup and because of that price tag, I do have him ranked below TAILLON for this slate. Now, TAILLON, 9.1K. I'm not sure I'd be loving paying this much for this guy on any other slate, but given what we're kind of given, I think he's going to be your SP1, given price per dollar, everything. So he's going up against Oakland. Oakland really struggles. We know their offense really struggles. They only have one player in their projected lineup tomorrow that has an ISO over 200 and a WOBA over 300. That's it, just one. So Yankees comparatively have 7. So Oakland, they really struggle against right-handed pitching. So I think TAILLON can do just fine, even at his 9.1K price tag. So I do have him ranked above Verlander because of that. Walker, you can see their strikeout rates next to these guys. So Walker, 18.4% strikeout rate. He's got a tough matchup going up against Houston. Not much else to say. I mean, he had these 2 shining moments of 31 and 33 DK points, but kind of came back to who he typically is at that 15K or 15 DK point. So I'm not super excited about it. He's got a tough matchup. I'm probably not going to be having him in really many of my lineups outside of some enemies. Cole Irvin going up against the Yankees. He's last on. I just split them, top half, bottom half salary. That's all I did. But I put Cole Irvin at the bottom, obviously. Just lowest strikeout rate among the 4. Toughest matchup going up against the Yankees among them 4. So that's kind of where I just split them, just salary-wise. Going into the bottom 4 guys salary-wise, Dunning leading the charge with a 20.8% K rate, which is actually the second highest on this slate. Kind of shows you how much struggle, how much pain, I don't even know what to call it, but they struggle. So Dunning, 20.8% K rate. Going up against KC, I think could be definitely in play for somebody that you would be considering as an SP2 if you don't want to jam in Verlander and you don't want to jam in TAILLON. It's possible to get both of them for sure, but you can kind of see outside of these 2 games that he had recently, he's been pretty consistent throughout the season here. So he's got a nice matchup going up against KC. He hasn't faced them yet this season. He does struggle on the road, but we'll see. We'll see how he does in KC. Who do I got next? Espino, 18.6% going up against Pittsburgh. I put him here mainly in second spot, mainly because of the strikeout rate. But he also is going deeper into games, but it's also his salary comes into play too. If he can get you double digits, if he can get you 12 to 13 DK points at 5.4K, he's going to be more than paying off his salary. He was able to get there going up against a much tougher Philadelphia offense than Pittsburgh. And he pretty much got there against a decent Texas team as well. So I think Espino with his K rate could certainly get there. So I have him ranked there. Keller going up against Washington. Washington just does not strike out against anybody. Pittsburgh strikes out. Espino can get those strikeouts. Washington, I mentioned that the Mets have like the 3rd lowest K rate. Washington's kind of in that top 5. They're like right around there as well. I can't remember the specifics, but they just don't strike out at all. It's pretty crazy. So Keller, I have him rated below Espino just because of that. I still think that Pittsburgh could win this game for sure, but I do grade Espino a little bit higher. And then Greinke, I'm not really touching him. He has 11.9K% on the season. It's been better lately. However, he's going up against Texas. Texas can throw in like 6, even up to 7 left-handed bats in their lineup. And Greinke's strikeout percentage against left-handed pitching or against left-handed bats this season, 7. It's not good when you can get your strikeout rate on just the fingers on your 2 hands. So I'm not going to be playing any Greinke at all. Obviously, it's a 4-game slate. You got to go a little bit crazy if you want to take on a GPP, a larger GPP. I don't think Greinke is the way to do it. There's other ways to get crazy, but still, Greinke, not for me. So we'll kind of go game by game here. We'll start off with Oakland and New York. I'd like to talk about the Yankees here. So with the Yankees, there's really not much value. It's going to be tough to get like 2 stud pitchers. It's going to be tough to get TAILLON and Verlander and a big Yankee stack. Just because there's not too much value unless you're playing way down in the lineup. Because the guys you're going to be targeting against left-handed pitchers, it's going to be Judge, it's going to be Stanton, it's going to be LeMahieu and Donaldson. Even Rizzo. I mean, Rizzo has decent numbers there as well. But if you throw in like a larger Yankee stack, let's just throw in the righties. And then we'll throw in Verlander and TAILLON. And you're at 2.4K remaining. Like it's near impossible to get a Yankee stack, a larger Yankee stack with 2 of the ace pitchers. Obviously, you can go lower in the Yankees lineup and open things up. But these are the guys that are obviously the best bats if you're doing a full Yankee stack. Oakland side of things, I mentioned earlier, they just have nobody that can hit the ball against right-handed pitching except for Seth Brown. Seth Brown is kind of like the main guy I would be targeting. He's been doing pretty well as of late. He's the only guy in Oakland that has an ISO over 200 or a WOBA over 300 on the entire team. So Seth Brown would be where I'd be starting. If you're doing like an Oakland stack, make sure he's definitely in there. Obviously, you can throw in Tony Kemp. You can throw in Vaught as well, those other lefties. But Oakland, I'm going to be playing a lot of TAILLON probably, so not going to have too much of them. Pittsburgh, Washington, we'll go there next. Pittsburgh is just a fun young team. I just love the kids that are coming into this team. It's going to be sad when the owner sells them all away or trades them away in a couple of years. But Bly Madris, this guy has been fantastic in his couple of games. A handful of games, I guess, by now in the majors. He's just one of those young, fun kids. Vogelbach, he's not very young, but still 2.6K. Nice lefty-righty matchup. He's got fantastic numbers against right-handed pitching. So, I mean, he could do wonders to your lineup if you're looking for some salary relief at 2.6K. And then O'Neill Cruz, obviously 4.1. And then Suwinski, if you're looking for some other value, a nice value play that you can go there at 2.9K. So it's these young kids and then Vogelbach. I think Pittsburgh is a fun team to be paying attention to. Washington side of things, it's nothing too fancy. It's Soto, it's Bell. Luis Garcia, he's got some nice numbers against right-handed pitching, but there's a lot of shortstops that I do like. So I already talked about Luis Garcia. I'm going to be talking about Bobby Witt later, O'Neill Cruz I just mentioned, Corey Seager. A lot of shortstops that are definitely in play on this slate here. Houston bats going up against Taijuan Walker, righty. Yordan Alvarez is going to be where you're going to be starting. He's still putting up video game numbers against right-handed bats. Altuve and Bregman actually have better numbers against right-handed pitching, even though they're right-handed bats. They still have better numbers than Tucker and Brantley do. Brantley's on the IL, but still. I would go starting off with Yordan Alvarez and then Altuve, Bregman. You can find some value with Houston. They do have some cheap plays. Gurriel at 2.9K. So I'm punting at first base, going cheap. I'm probably going to be going down towards Vogelbach, but you could certainly get some other value there with Houston. On the New York Mets side of things, going up against Verlander, it's scary going up against Verlander. But if there's a team that could do it, it's probably this Mets team. It's GPP only at this point, especially given their salaries. But I think you can pretty much mix and match who you want from that Mets team and just kind of plug and pray. Hope that they can get to Verlander if you don't play Verlander. Texas, I have them as my top-rated team, just given salary, given they're going up against Greinke, who has a single-digit strikeout rate against left-handed bats, and this lineup is just chock full of left-handed bats. The value guy from here is going to be Josh Smith at 2.9K. He's been leading off in this lineup lately. He's not going to be a big power guy. Don't expect a home run out of him at all. But he's a guy that's going to be hitting for average for you. So he could really open things up as well at 2.9K. And then it's Corey Seager. Garcia, I know he's a righty, but he's got some fantastic numbers. He's 5.5K for a reason. Cole Calhoun, Nate Lowe, all the way on down. They got plenty of guys that can do some damage to Greinke. And on the KC side of things, not too much interest in here going up against Dunning. I think Dunning can do fairly well here. But if you were going to go with KC, it's going to be Bobby Witt. It's going to be Melendez at 4.2K. Dozier, 3K, another value first baseman that you could be targeting. So I feel like cheap first base is kind of going to be the way to go. So maybe paying up at first base is a way to get a little bit different, especially in GPPs. Just because I feel like every first baseman that I'm highlighting is in that 3K and below range. And I just keep naming a bunch of shortstops as well. But KC, it's going to be Bobby Witt, Melendez. Dozier's got some nice numbers, Benintendi, etc. So that's kind of where I ranked everybody. Texas up at the top, going up against Greinke. Pittsburgh, I just love the pricing of their guys going up against Espino. I know I have Espino ranked up here, but I think it's more because he can get strikeouts and he's super cheap. But I still like Pittsburgh. Houston going up against Walker, and then Washington rounding things out. GPP, I got the New York Yankees kind of starting things off up at the top. Just GPP because, I mean, they're so expensive. The salary, you're not going to be able to get those top, Verlander and TAILLON in there. So you're going to have to drop down to either Dunning or some other guy down there. New York Mets, obviously going up against Verlander, and then KC and Oakland rounding things out. I just don't have too much interest in Oakland at all. So what do builds look like? You can throw in two aces with Verlander and TAILLON. I think if you're going to be doing that, you're obviously going to be going cheap at first base, so you can throw in Vogelbach. Third base, I already mentioned Josh Smith. There we go. Josh Smith at 2.9K. You're looking at 4.1 remaining. So, I mean, you could do a combination of like Texas, Pittsburgh, and Houston guys. So let's throw in like Yordan Alvarez, who I was mentioning, puts up video game numbers against right-handed pitching. You're still at 3.7K remaining for everything. I mean, Pittsburgh's got a lot of cheap guys that you could be targeting. O'Neill Cruz at 4.1K. Who's the other guy at 4K that I was just talking about? Madris. He's been doing fantastic. So, like, you can easily get in a nice lineup with Verlander and TAILLON in there. And you can kind of see why I have Pittsburgh kind of as the second graded team, if not the first graded team, in my opinion, on this slate. But if you don't want to go there, you could go drop down from Verlander. You could drop it down to Dunning or even Espino, and it just opens everything up. Now you can get that Yankee stack that I was talking about earlier going up against IRVIN. Let's throw in Judge. We'll throw in Stanton. We'll throw in DJ LeMahieu. We'll throw in Donaldson. 3.2. And I just mentioned, I mean, we're not covering first base here with Rizzo. Maybe you want Rizzo in there. He does have some nice numbers, but you can drop down here at first base. But as I mentioned earlier, I'm kind of thinking as I'm talking here, I mentioned earlier, GPP, maybe paying up at first baseman is a way to differentiate yourself just because there's so many cheap first basemen that you could go to. You could go to Dozier. You could go to Gurriel on Houston. I could go to Vogelbach here. So there's lots of cheap first basemen. So maybe paying up is the way to go. Seth Brown, you can go him first base, 4.1K. But yeah, so you can easily get in the Yankee stack if you do drop down as your SP2 to Dunning, even Espino. Keller, I'm not saying he's a poor pitcher. I think he's fine. It's just that Washington doesn't strike out a whole lot. So yeah, that kind of covers everything on this slate. So thanks for watching once again. Good luck in your contests this afternoon. We'll see you guys in the next video.